We have a shocking New York Rangers trade update to go over today as rumors and reports are continuing to circulate league-wide. A blockbuster trade is incoming for the New York Rangers, and this will completely change the complexion of this team heading into next season. We're going to break down exactly what this update is and the implications that it has on the team moving forward in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we go any further, if you're part of the percentage that aren't subscribed to the channel, about 77% of you, go down below, hit that free subscribe button because this is the place to be for all your daily New York Rangers content. But let's jump right into it. The player I'm talking about, of course, is Mason McTavish, and there's been a lot of noise around this player league-wide this entire offseason, and there are some rumblings that he is being linked to the New York Rangers at this point. And let's get right into it because this is an interesting one and could actually make a lot of sense. I say it could make sense. This actually makes a ton of sense for the New York Rangers, at least heading into the future. But let's get right into it. This is from Crossbar Confidential. Now, take a lot of this with a grain of salt. No insider, the usual suspects, the Elliot Friedmans of the world have said that this is going to happen or that there is something in the works. There's no trade framework or anything that's been laid out just yet, but it's an interesting idea. And keep in mind too, Mason McTavish, he plays for the Anaheim Ducks, and the Anaheim Ducks and the New York Rangers, not afraid to make a trade. We know that for a fact. They are not afraid to make a trade. Now, hearing that the New York Rangers and Fly Together, the Anaheim Ducks, have been in early talks about forward Mason McTavish. If these talks keep going, it's going to look like the New York Rangers will be the destination for McTavish. Now, I don't think McTavish necessarily wants to leave Anaheim, but it's an interesting case. Let's keep in mind, he is an RFA. He is due a contract. He's projected right now by Scotia Stat Projections at a 5-year, just over $6 million contract. So keep that in mind. If you look at some of the comparables, some very good comparables, we know what Mason McTavish is all about. If you look at his season last year, 76 games played, he had 52 points, really good statistics. And I mean, he's not elite or anything like that. But I think if he was playing with higher skilled players and maybe players that fit his skill set a little bit better, then maybe he would find more success. But the biggest thing for me here is, yes, you got to think about that money. What goes the other way? Maybe it's Mika Zibanejad. Maybe Mika Zibanejad wouldn't mind joining some of his buddies in, obviously Anaheim. Anaheim is becoming the, New York Rangers of the South at this point. So that could make some sense. I know Mika said he wants to stay in New York, but, if it were to come to the point that they asked him to waive his no movement clause, I think that could make a lot of sense for, honestly, both parties at this point. To a degree, of course, I could see Anaheim wanting to keep Mason McTavish as well. But there's been a lot of chatter. But $6 million, 5 years, not bad at all for a player that can play as your second line center for the New York Rangers, and it would fix your problem. Now, also take this with a grain of salt. Roger Hicks, he tweets out a lot of stuff, right? And if you tweet out literally everything, you might hit on something. So take that with a grain of salt, of course. But he says, sounds like there's some truth to the New York Rangers checking in on Anaheim Ducks RFA Mason McTavish. Both sides only held preliminary talks, but the longer this goes on, the better I'd say the odds are something happens. So that's pretty interesting in and of itself as well. This is from Bench Rates, a lot of advanced analytics that they do. So he said, of course, his camp, Mason McTavish's camp, of course, is pushing for more, somewhere between $7 million to $8 million, and hence the impasse. Now, if you get Mason McTavish, we just talked about $6 million at 5 years, right? If you get him for 8 years, 7 years, let's say, it would have to be a sign and trade if it was 8 years, but maybe you get him at 7 years at 7 times 7, something like that. That could make a lot of sense with the salary cap going up. He's a young player. He's proven that, he is ready for prime time, and I think that he could make a difference on a team like the New York Rangers playing second line center. You're getting younger. You're getting more responsible at center as well, at least in the defensive zone, which is something, we've been talking about on the channel, and people for some reason have been ignoring for the last little while. But, generally his current level of $5.4 million, taking into account the already known cap increasing, it will turn into $7 million. So this is probably what his side is looking for. And again, if you're the New York Rangers, I would make that happen. 7 times 7, if they were open to doing that, I would absolutely do that if I was the New York Rangers. If you take a look at his advanced analytics again, I said more responsible defensively. Listen, I don't know if it gets much worse than Mika Zibanejad at center last season in the defensive zone. But if you're looking for a defensive stalwart at center, Mason McTavish is also not the guy that if you're looking at the advanced analytics here. So he's not an Alexander Barkov or anything like that. So, he's not going to be that defensive stalwart or anything for you. But he is responsible in his own zone. I think there is a bit of a difference just being responsible. If you look at Mika Zibanejad last year, not necessarily responsible in his own zone. I actually don't know if it gets any worse than that at center, which is why I've been saying that he needs to play the wing if he is going to remain with the New York Rangers. But you can see here, Mason McTavish, advanced analytics, great offensively, can add a new dynamic to this team. If you were to sign him, or trade for him and then obviously subsequently sign him because he has an RFA, this could make a lot of sense for the New York Rangers. Great offensive output. He can win the draws. You have a younger guy who's quick at the center position moving forward. So I think that makes actually a ton of sense. If you look at all the advanced analytics, he is a great player that can make a lot of sense. And if you look at the Anaheim Ducks, not the Rangers lineup, the Anaheim Ducks lineup, this could make a lot of sense for them. You remove Mason McTavish, maybe you put Mika Zibanejad there or on the wing. This can make a lot of sense for them because they have a really interesting mix right now of younger players and veterans. They just traded away Trevor Zegras. They added Chris Kreider, of course, from the New York Rangers. And they are the Rangers of the South at this point with a couple players that were Rangers either last season or a couple seasons ago. So, could make some sense if Mika wants to waive his no trade clause. There's a couple players there that might say, hey, come on down. We've played together before. We vouch for this place. All of these things that could open this up to actually happening. And I think it could make a lot of sense. And also, let's keep in mind that the Anaheim Ducks right now in the entire league have the most cap space. In the entire league, they have over $21 million to work with. So if you're in the New York Rangers, this wouldn't be a problem. The only problem would be, what Mason McTavish wants, what he's going to sign for, essentially. Because you have to free up that salary cap space. It would have to be probably Mika going back the other way. That's the reason I bring it up. So, they're very tight against the cap right here, as you can see. But I think this could make a lot of sense. Like I was saying, Mika could, go play with some of his buddies that were on the Rangers. And for the Rangers, you're getting a second line center that, for the foreseeable future. A lot of people tend to forget. I want to bring up his stats here before we wrap up. He's not even 23 yet. This is a 22-year-old center in this league that's putting up 52 points in 76 games. He's only going to continue to get better. And he only made the NHL, a handful of seasons ago at this point. So, this is a guy that has tremendous upside. I wonder what he could do with some more ice time as well. He was an even player on not the greatest team on the Anaheim Ducks last season. So again, could make a ton of sense for the New York Rangers. You would fix a problem, move out some salary cap space, and actually might be giving yourself some more flexibility in, as it pertains to the salary cap with a move like this, depending on what Mason McTavish would end up signing for. So could make a ton of sense. I think that, we know that the Rangers and the Ducks have made a trade or multiple trades, recently. So this could make a lot of sense. Let me know how you feel in the comments about potentially trading for Mason McTavish. I feel like it would fix a lot of problems, but there would be one hurdle in the way, and that would be Mika Zibanejad. Does he want to leave New York? And it seems like the answer is no, but that's the only way I think this ends up getting done. Let me know how you feel in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.